The airport lounge buzzed with the low hum of conversation, rolling luggage, and the occasional clatter of coffee cups. Among the crowd, a young man with tousled hair and a worn jacket was struggling to manage a toddler who seemed determined to test the limits of patience. "Easy little guy," he muttered, bending down to scoop the baby into his arms. His name was Ethan, a single dad who had spent the last 5 years balancing work, parenting, and a life that often felt like it was unraveling at the edges. The toddler, his own son, wiggled and fussed, demanding attention that Ethan knew he could barely give. Nearby, a private lounge door opened, and a woman in an expensive suit hurried through, carrying a baby in her arms. The baby's face was red, and its cries pierced the air like a siren. The woman glanced around desperately, clearly frazzled. "Please, someone, help," she whispered under her breath. Ethan looked up, instinctively drawn to the sound. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to act. The woman was clearly struggling, and though he had never met her or her baby, he recognized the panic in her eyes. "Excuse me," Ethan said, stepping closer. "Do you want me to hold him for a moment?" The woman hesitated, glancing at him as though measuring whether to trust a stranger. Her professional composure was cracking, and the baby's wails were only escalating. I don't know," she said finally. "He just won't stop crying. I've tried everything." Ethan smiled reassuringly. "I've handled a lot of crying babies," he said, nodding toward his own son. "Sometimes it helps to just hold them, let them feel secure, and breathe with them." The woman looked at him, desperation mingled with uncertainty. But before she could protest further, Ethan gently took the baby from her arms. The child's cries didn't immediately cease, but there was a sense of calm in Ethan's presence. He rocked the baby slowly, humming a soft tune he often used with his own son. Minutes passed, and slowly, the baby's cries began to diminish. The red face relaxed, tears dried, and the tiny hands that had been flailing now clung to Ethan's shoulder. The woman watched in awe, a mix of relief and gratitude flooding her expression. I can't believe it," she whispered. He's calm. How did you—" Ethan shrugged modestly. "Sometimes they just need someone who isn't panicking, someone who can hold them, listen to them, and be patient. Babies sense it." The woman exhaled, finally allowing herself to smile. "Thank you. I don't even know your name." "Ethan," he replied, offering a hand. "This little guy is Max. Yours?" "Yes," she said softly, holding out her hand. "I'm Claire. He's my son, Oliver. And I'm at my wit's end." Ethan laughed gently. "I get it. It's tough, but you're doing great. He just needed a moment to feel safe." Claire sank into a nearby chair, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in what felt like hours. Ethan handed Oliver back to her, and she marveled at how calm the baby remained after all the chaos. She looked at Ethan with a mixture of curiosity and gratitude. "You really have a gift with him," she said. Ethan chuckled. "It's called being a parent. I've been there, more times than I can count. Some days are harder than others." Claire nodded slowly, a thoughtful expression crossing her face. "You sound like you know exactly what you're doing. I've never met someone so calm. Most people panic the second he starts crying." Ethan shrugged again, a faint blush rising. "Patience, attention, and a little experience. And a lot of love," he said softly, glancing at Oliver. "Even when they cry non-stop, it's all worth it." As the crowd in the lounge moved around them, Claire realized she didn't even know how to repay him. "You've really helped me. I don't know what I would have done otherwise." Ethan smiled warmly. "No need to repay me. Just keep doing what you're doing. And if you ever need another hand or just someone who understands, well, you know where to find me." Claire's heart fluttered slightly. She had been overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted, and yet here was a stranger, a single dad, who had stepped in without hesitation, without judgment, and without expecting anything in return. For the first time in hours, she felt hope. She had been drowning in the responsibilities and pressures of her life, and a simple act of kindness had reminded her that help could come from the most unexpected places. As they watched the planes take off from the nearby runway, a quiet and understanding passed between them. Claire had a life of wealth, influence, and control, but it hadn't shielded her from the overwhelming reality of parenthood. Ethan had a life filled with struggle, love, and resilience, yet it had equipped him to face these very challenges with calmness and care. Somehow, their worlds, so different yet so connected, had collided in the airport lounge that morning. And as Oliver drifted off to sleep in Claire's arms, she realized that this single encounter might be the start of something extraordinary, not just for her and her baby, but for both families. The rest of the day moved in a blur. Claire and Ethan stayed in touch, sharing small tips, advice, and the occasional story about their children. While they came from different worlds, they found common ground in the shared experience of parenthood, the sleepless nights, the endless crying, the little victories that made it all worth it. For Claire, the encounter was a reminder that wealth and privilege could never replace genuine care, understanding, and human connection. For Ethan, it was a chance to step into someone else's life and make a real difference, showing that patience and empathy could transcend status and circumstance. By evening, both returned to their respective homes, hearts a little lighter, minds a little calmer, and with a newfound sense of hope. The day had begun, with chaos and crying, yet it ended with understanding, connection, and the knowledge that even the smallest actions, a gentle hand, a calming voice, a patient heart, could change lives in ways unimaginable. The following days passed in a blur of feedings, diaper changes, and sleepless nights for both parents, though in very different ways. Claire, used to managing boardrooms and high-stakes decisions, quickly realized that no amount of wealth could make Oliver stop crying, soothe his colic, or help him sleep through the night. Ethan, meanwhile, had returned to his routine, working at the small construction firm he managed while taking care of his own son, Max. Yet, he couldn't shake the memory of Claire and Oliver, or the helpless look on her face when she had been unable to calm her baby. Despite the differences in their lives, he had seen in her a mother's heart, stretched thin but desperate to do right by her child. Then, late one evening, his phone buzzed. A message from Claire. "Oliver won't stop crying tonight. I don't know what to do. Could you help me?" Ethan hesitated for only a moment before replying, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Hang on." When Ethan arrived at Claire's penthouse, he found her sitting on the sofa, Oliver screaming in her arms. The luxurious surroundings, the modern furniture, high-end gadgets, and panoramic city views were irrelevant compared to the overwhelming fatigue on her face. She looked up when he entered, relief flooding her expression. "Thank you for coming," she said softly. "I've tried everything." Ethan knelt in front of her, gently taking Oliver into his arms. The baby cried harder for a few moments, as if testing this stranger's calm demeanor. Then, Ethan began humming softly, rocking him gently while patting his back in rhythm. Claire watched, astonished. Within minutes, Oliver's cries softened into whimpers and finally subsided entirely. His tiny fists relaxed, and his eyes began to droop. How did you do that?" she whispered. Ethan smiled, shrugging modestly. "Patience, consistency, and knowing when to just be present. Babies feel stress. They know when someone is panicking. I've been there. You just need to stay calm and let them know they're safe." Claire felt tears prick her eyes. In that moment, she realized that no wealth or status could replace what Ethan had given her: understanding, presence, and genuine care. She had spent her life managing companies and making decisions that affected thousands, yet here was a man with far less, showing a power she had never experienced. The power to calm a child's heart and in turn soothe her own. "You really have a gift," she said softly. "Not everyone can do what you just did." Ethan shook his head. It's not a gift. It's experience, patience, and empathy. And honestly, any parent can learn it. You're already doing your best. You just needed a little help tonight. Claire smiled, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. I don't know how to thank you. You've saved me tonight. Ethan chuckled. No thanks needed. But if you want, I can show you a few techniques, things I've learned over the years. Then you won't feel so helpless the next time he cries. Claire nodded eagerly. I'd like that. I want to do better for him. I want to be the kind of mother he can feel safe with even when I'm stressed. Over the next few hours, Ethan taught Claire simple techniques, how to soothe Oliver with rhythm and movement, the importance of breathing while holding him, and ways to stay calm even when exhaustion took its toll. Claire followed his instructions carefully, trying each method, and slowly but surely, Oliver began to respond. By the time Ethan left that night, the baby was peacefully asleep, and Claire felt a confidence she hadn't experienced in months. For the first time, she realized that parenting wasn't about wealth or control. It was about presence, understanding, and patience. And Ethan had shown her exactly how to achieve that. In the days that followed, Claire began relying on Ethan more, not out of dependence, but because she had discovered someone she could trust, someone whose experience and calm presence helped her navigate the challenges she faced daily. Meanwhile, Ethan found himself thinking about Claire and Oliver often. He admired her dedication, intelligence, and the vulnerability she rarely allowed others to see. Despite their differences, he a modest single father with a small business, she a wealthy CEO accustomed to control, they shared something rare, a commitment to putting their child's needs above their own, a willingness to learn and adapt, and a capacity for empathy that transcended wealth, status, or circumstance. One evening, after another successful bedtime for Oliver, Claire invited Ethan to stay for a cup of tea. They sat across from each other, the soft hum of the city in the background. You know, Claire began, her voice quiet, I used to think that money could solve everything. Sleep issues, childcare, even happiness. But tonight, you've shown me it's not money at all. It's presence, care, and knowing how to be calm when your child needs you most. Ethan smiled warmly. I've learned the hard way. Babies cry, parents get exhausted, and sometimes all it takes is someone to step in with patience and understanding. That's enough. Claire looked at him thoughtfully. I feel like you've changed my life, even in a small way, and not just Oliver's. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. I'm glad. That's all I could hope for. By the end of the week, a rhythm had formed. Claire and Ethan communicated regularly, sharing updates, advice, and encouragement. Oliver's cries became easy to manage, and Claire grew more confident in her abilities as a mother. She had discovered that even someone from a completely different world, a single dad with his own challenges, could teach her invaluable lessons about patience, love, and presence. Ethan, in turn, had experienced something profound. The knowledge that his experience and empathy could help another family, and that his efforts were meaningful far beyond his own home. As the weekend approached, Claire invited Ethan and Max over for a small holiday dinner, a chance for their families to connect, for her to show gratitude, and for the children to play together. And in that simple act, the promise of connection, shared meals, and mutual support, their lives were quietly, irrevocably changed. The weekend arrived, bringing with it a crisp chill in the air and the soft scent of winter. Claire had prepared her penthouse for the small gathering she had planned for Ethan, Max, and Oliver. Though the space gleamed with high-end decor and luxury, it was the warmth and care she had poured into it that made the apartment feel truly inviting. Ethan arrived first, carrying Max in one arm and a bag of snacks and toys in the other. Oliver, already bundled in a cozy blanket, had stopped crying hours earlier, thanks to the techniques Ethan had taught Claire. The moment Claire opened the door, she felt a wave of relief and gratitude. These two fathers, so different in experience, background, and circumstance, had become a part of her life in a way she hadn't anticipated. "Welcome," Claire said, smiling warmly. "I'm glad you could make it." Ethan nodded, returning the smile. "Wouldn't miss it. And I think the kids are going to have a lot of fun today." Max and Oliver immediately gravitated toward each other, their laughter echoing through the spacious apartment. Claire watched them play, realizing that the bond forming between the children was a reflection of the growing connection between the adults. She felt a profound sense of relief. For the first time, she wasn't alone in the challenges of parenthood. Ethan and Claire spent the first hour guiding the children through games, sharing small parenting tips, and laughing at the inevitable messes that accompanied toddlers at play. It was chaotic, noisy, and exhausting, but it was also genuine, unpretentious, and full of joy. At one point, Oliver began to cry again, triggered by frustration over a toy Max had taken. Claire instinctively went to him, but Ethan stepped forward, gently taking the baby in his arms. He rocked him, humming softly, just as he had done the first day they met. Within minutes, Oliver's cries had faded into soft coos. His tiny hands relaxed against Ethan's shoulder. Claire watched silently, struck by the ease and patience with which Ethan handled the situation. She realized that he had not only taught her valuable skills, but had also become a stabilizing presence in Oliver's life. Someone the child could trust, even if only temporarily. "You really have a gift," she whispered quietly to Ethan, so as not to disturb the children. Ethan shook his head. "It's not a gift. It's experience, patience, and empathy. You learn over time, and you make mistakes, but you keep going. That's what matters." Claire nodded, taking in his words. She had spent her life trying to manage everything with perfection, yet here was a man who demonstrated that love, patience, and persistence were far more important than flawless execution. As the afternoon wore on, Claire suggested they all take a walk to the nearby park. Snow had begun to fall gently, dusting the city streets in white, and the children squealed with delight at the sight. Ethan helped Oliver into a snowsuit, while Claire bundled Max up, and soon the four of them were trudging through the powdery snow, their laughter carrying through the crisp air. In the park, the children built small snowmen together, sharing mittens and squealing with delight whenever one toppled over. Ethan and Claire walked behind them, talking quietly. "I never imagined parenting could be like this," Claire admitted, her breath visible in the cold air. "I thought money and control could solve everything, but I was wrong. It's patience, understanding, and sharing these moments that matter most." Ethan smiled. "Exactly. Kids don't care how much money you have. They care if you're there, if you listen, and if you make them feel safe. That's what counts." Claire nodded slowly, absorbing the truth in his words. She had been so consumed by her career and responsibilities that she had forgotten the simplicity of connection, the power of simply being present. Back at her penthouse, dinner was a modest affair, not in the sense of quality, but in the sense of atmosphere. The focus was on togetherness, conversation, and laughter. Ethan and Claire shared stories about their respective parenting challenges, from sleepless nights to temper tantrums, and the two fathers found common ground in the struggles and triumphs of raising children. "You know," Claire said, pouring hot cocoa into tiny mugs for the children, "I never thought I'd meet someone like you, someone who can handle a crying baby without panicking, without expecting anything in return. You've changed how I see parenting and life." Ethan looked at her, feeling a mix of humility and pride. "I'm glad. That's all I ever hoped for. Sometimes the right support comes from unexpected places. You learn, adapt, and grow stronger." Claire smiled softly, realizing that Ethan's presence in her life had done more than calm a crying baby. It had given her confidence, perspective, and a renewed sense of hope. Later that night, after the children had fallen asleep, Claire and Ethan found themselves sitting together, reflecting on the day. The snow had stopped and the city lights glimmered outside the windows. "I've been so focused on control, efficiency, and perfection," Claire admitted quietly. "I forgot that parenting and life is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes overwhelming. But today was perfect in a way I never expected, because it wasn't perfect. It was real." Ethan nodded, his eyes softening. "That's the beauty of it. Real connections, real moments, they matter far more than perfection. And you've done wonderfully. Oliver feels safe. You've learned to trust yourself. That's what counts." Claire smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. In Ethan, she had found not only guidance, but also a partner in understanding, someone who had shown her the value of patience, empathy, and presence. And in that quiet moment, as the city slept beneath a blanket of snow, a realization dawned on both of them. Their lives, and the lives of their children, had been irrevocably changed by a simple act of kindness. A single father stepping forward to calm a crying baby the following week brought unexpected challenges. Claire's work schedule had intensified as her company prepared for a major acquisition. Meetings stretched late into the night, calls came at all hours, and her normally meticulous routine teetered on the edge of chaos. Amid the corporate frenzy, Oliver's cries returned with renewed intensity, triggered by the stress and tension in the household. Claire tried to manage everything herself, but the pressure was mounting. The sleepless nights, the constant work obligations, and the fear that she wasn't being the mother Oliver needed made her feel overwhelmed. For the first time, she realized that even her wealth and influence could not solve every problem. Some challenges required human touch, experience, and patience that money could never buy. She called Ethan one evening, her voice tense but desperate. "Ethan, I don't know what to do. Oliver won't stop crying, and I have a meeting in 30 minutes. Can you please help?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Of course," he said. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't worry, you're not failing. You just need a hand." When he arrived, Claire handed over Oliver, her shoulders slumping with relief. Ethan began the familiar routine, soft rocking, gentle humming, and rhythmic pats on the baby's back. Oliver, initially resistant, slowly relaxed into Ethan's arms, his cries subsiding as the tension in the room melted away. Claire watched in awe, realizing again that her son responded to calmness and presence far more than any material comfort. She felt a mixture of gratitude and humility. Here was a man with no obligation to her, yet he had come running, steadying her child and giving her the breathing space she so desperately needed. "You really have a gift," she whispered again, a note of awe in her voice. Ethan shook his head, smiling gently. "It's not a gift. It's patience, experience, and caring. Anyone can learn it. It's just about listening, observing, and being present." That night, after Oliver had finally fallen asleep, Claire and Ethan shared a quiet moment in the living room. Claire's penthouse, usually cold and formal, felt warm and alive with the tiny footprints of the day's chaos. "I don't know what I would do without you," Claire admitted softly. "I've learned so much in these past few weeks, not just about parenting, but about myself. You've shown me what it means to really be present, to really care." Ethan smiled, his own heart full. "I'm glad I could help, and honestly, seeing you navigate all this has shown me something too, that even the busiest, most successful people can need support. We all do, in one way or another." Claire nodded thoughtfully, realizing how true that was. She had spent her life believing she had to handle everything on her own. Yet here was a single dad teaching her that asking for help wasn't weakness, it was strength. A few days later, another crisis tested their bond. Claire's company faced an unexpected emergency. A key investor threatened to withdraw support, and she had to leave home immediately. Panic surged as she realized Oliver would be alone for hours. She called Ethan, her voice trembling. "He can't be alone. Please, can you stay with him while I handle this?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Of course. I'll make sure he's safe and calm. Don't worry about a thing." As Claire rushed off, Ethan stayed behind, juggling the needs of Oliver and Max, preparing meals, soothing tears, and keeping both boys engaged. Hours later, when Claire returned, she found her children happy, fed, and calm. She looked at Ethan with gratitude that words could barely capture. "You saved the day," she said, her eyes glistening. "Again. I don't know how to thank you." Ethan smiled, shaking his head. "You don't have to. That's what friends and fellow parents do. We help each other when it counts." The week that followed cemented the bond between the two families. Claire began to see Ethan not only as a calming presence for Oliver, but as a friend, confidant, and partner in parenting. She realized that life didn't have to be a solitary struggle. Sometimes strength came from allowing others into your life, from trusting someone with your fears, your children, and even your vulnerabilities. Ethan, in turn, found himself increasingly invested in their family. His experiences as a single dad gave him insight, patience, and understanding, and he discovered that helping Claire and Oliver gave him a sense of fulfillment he hadn't expected. He began to understand that life's impact wasn't measured by wealth or status, but by the positive influence one had on others' lives. By the time Christmas Eve arrived, both families were closer than ever. The apartment was decorated with modest yet festive touches. Laughter filled the rooms, and the children, Oliver and Max, were thrilled to be together, playing, giggling, and learning from each other. It was in this quiet, joyful chaos that both Claire and Ethan realized something extraordinary. Their worlds, so different, so unlikely, had merged through a simple act of kindness, and that kindness had transformed not only their children's lives, but their own. Christmas morning arrived with a soft glow, snow gently falling on the city streets below. Claire woke early, feeling a mix of excitement and gratitude she hadn't experienced in years. The previous weeks had been a whirlwind, chaos, sleepless nights, and moments of panic, but they had also been filled with laughter, connection, and unexpected friendship. Ethan and Max were already on their way, and Claire prepared a small breakfast for everyone. Oliver, now cheerful and alert, seemed to sense that today was special. As soon as the door opened, the apartment filled with laughter once more. The two fathers carried their sons in, and the children immediately ran to each other, squealing with delight. Claire couldn't help but smile, her heart full. She realized how far she had come, from the panicked, overwhelmed parent in the airport lounge to a mother confident in her ability to care for Oliver, with guidance and support from Ethan. Ethan handed Oliver to Claire, who held him close, feeling the warmth and safety he now exuded. "Merry Christmas," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "Thank you for everything, for teaching me, helping me, and being here." Ethan smiled warmly. "No thanks needed. I'm glad I could help. You've done most of the work yourself. I just showed you a few tricks and offered support." Max tugged at Ethan's hand. "Can we play outside in the snow?" he asked, his eyes bright with anticipation. "Absolutely," Ethan replied, ruffling Max's hair. "Let's make today fun." The morning passed in a joyful blur of laughter, snowball fights, and snowmen. Claire watched as the children played together, realizing that their bond had grown stronger in just a few weeks. It wasn't just Oliver and Max who had connected. She and Ethan had formed a partnership, a friendship built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. Later, as they warmed up with cocoa inside, Claire pulled Ethan aside. "I have to admit something," she said softly. "When we first met, I thought I could handle everything myself. I didn't think I needed anyone's help. But you've shown me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength." Ethan looked at her, understanding in his eyes. "Exactly. Parenthood isn't a solo journey. It's about community, support, and knowing when to let others in. And you've embraced that beautifully." Claire felt a surge of gratitude. She had been so focused on doing everything perfectly, on managing every detail of her life, that she had almost forgotten the most important lesson: the power of connection, patience, and empathy. That afternoon, Claire and Ethan watched the children nap together, exhausted but happy. She realized how much she had relied on him, not just for calming Oliver, but for guidance, friendship, and reassurance. His presence had transformed her life, teaching her lessons that no amount of wealth could provide. Ethan, sitting quietly beside her, reflected on the journey as well. He had entered her life as a stranger in an airport lounge, simply offering calm and support for a crying baby. And yet, that small act had led to something extraordinary, a bond between families, a friendship grounded in trust and shared experiences, and the knowledge that simple kindness could reshape lives. As evening fell, the families gathered around the Christmas tree. Claire hugged Ethan tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Not just for Oliver, but for showing me the meaning of true support and friendship." Ethan smiled softly. "It's been my pleasure. You've done wonderfully. And remember, kindness, patience, and presence are more powerful than anything else. You've already proven that." Max and Oliver sat between them, giggling, sharing cookies, and marveling at the twinkling lights. Claire looked at Ethan and felt a deep sense of peace. For the first time in her life, she knew that no matter the chaos, the sleepless nights, or the unexpected challenges, she was not alone. She had friends, support, and guidance she could trust. That Christmas, Claire and Ethan understood something profound. The smallest acts of kindness, holding a crying baby, offering a helping hand, or simply being present, could ripple outward, transforming lives, creating lasting bonds, and instilling hope where despair once lived. For Claire, it was the realization that she didn't have to face life or parenthood alone. For Ethan, it was the confirmation that his experience and care had made a difference far beyond what he had imagined. And for the children, it was the beginning of a joyful, trusting friendship that would grow for years to come. As the snow fell softly outside, laughter echoed through the penthouse. The children slept peacefully. The parents reflected with gratitude, and a sense of warmth, love, and hope filled every corner. One act of kindness, a single father stepping forward to calm a crying baby, had changed everything. And in the process, it had created a family not defined by wealth, status, or circumstance, but by love, empathy, and the simple, profound power of being there for one another.